Hello, everybody. How have you been? I have been pretty good. I've been very busy. Been making a lot of pen blanks. Keep an eye out for those. I will make them available shortly. I just have a few more to finish up. Today, I had the day off work. It's President's Day. Came out to the shop, fired up my kerosene heater, went back in the house for about a half an hour to have a little breakfast and to let the shop kind of warm up a little bit. When I came back out, I could not see that door. There was so much smoke in the shop. It just was so thick, you couldn't see the door. So I had to get all of my doors open, all of my windows open, and air the shop out. Consequently, there was a layer of ash dust on everything. My hands are still kind of black. I've been washing them. It just doesn't want to come off. It's all over me. I'm filthy right now because I ended up spending the day cleaning the shop. And I thought, you know what? The shop looks fantastic. Now would be a great time to probably shoot a shop update and kind of show you guys around the shop. It's been a while since I've done this, and people usually like to see, what's happening in the shop, how you have things laid out. So that's what I'm going to do, run you through the shop and show you how it's laid out and what essentially my shop is and looks like. Entering the shop, I've got a nice little whiteboard on the door, got an eraser up there, a couple of markers. This is where I keep track of things I want to work on. You have ideas when you're in the shop and you need to write them down and make note. Right inside the shop, this is the base to a Christmas tree shelf that I made about 8 or 9 years ago. I am in the process of redoing the shelf. It just got kind of beat up and needed a little bit of tender love and care, so I'm working on that. That's a project that's happening right now. Got my table saw pushed back against the door, looking pretty good. Back in this corner, we've got the router. And you'll notice I've got a pipe here. Now this pipe services both the table saw and the router. And whenever I pull it out to use it, it services my planer. It's hooked into my dust collection system. Here's a port right here. This port is for the table. We haven't seen it yet, but right here. And the bottom port goes all the way over to the lathe and services the lathe. You can see the pipe goes up, over, and there is my dust collection system up in the top of the shop. I also have an air filtration system that I run to purify the air anytime I'm doing any sanding. It does a great job of getting the dust out of the air. So looking up at the top of the shop, you can see I just have a few decorations up there just to kind of make it, make it my own. There's a heater that I installed earlier this year. The nice thing about that heater is it's on that little rack. There are a couple of knobs on top that keep it from sliding off the rack. I put a second rack on the opposite side of the door so it can be moved out into the big garage whenever we have gatherings out there. Got a fire extinguisher right by the door. Okay, let's zoom back around. That's just a scrap box. Anytime I have little cutoffs from the bandsaw, the table saw, I toss them in that box and I have a buddy that picks them up and takes them. This cabinet above this set of sanders and my bandsaw is where I keep screws. I've got nails, I've got sanding discs, sanding belts, just a few products up there. These are just storage area mostly for the items on this bench. If we back up a little bit, you'll see I've got my bandsaw, one of my sleds on it. I've been using that quite a bit. We've got our disc/belt sander, and I've got an oscillating spindle sander. I use the the disc sander all the time, and I use the bandsaw all the time. I've been using it quite heavily lately. Let me jump over. I've got this nice stainless steel table. It came out of a restaurant. They were doing some work to get set up to take DoorDash, and they needed an area for a rack, and this was in the way, so they got rid of it, offered it to me. I took it. It is stainless steel. It is an incredible table. I've got a toolbox underneath. That toolbox has all of my models in it and my glue-ups, my pending glue-ups for a demonstration I'll be doing at Mid-Atlantic Turner's Expo in March. So that's where I've been collecting all of my stuff, my tools, so I can take that with me. Those are my cups, and what I use those for is on top of the table. Take a look at this. I've been making twist blanks, a bunch of twist blanks, and I use those cups as I make the twist blanks. I'll put the slices in there to keep them all together. Otherwise, they get mixed up. It makes it a little difficult because you generally make a large number of these at a time. These are cutoffs. I'm using these for end caps. You'll notice the end caps on my blanks. And there are some full blanks that I'll be starting on again here shortly and making another round of glue ups. Kind of hard to see, but I've got my AC/heater right there. I don't use the heat on that. I definitely use the AC in the summertime. And it basically, I raise the window up and I set that vent in the window. That's the exhaust vent, and it can exhaust right out. There is the other end of the dust collection that goes to the lathe. You can see right there, to the dust collector on the lathe. Down on the floor, I've got a dust deputy with my shop vac. I just put the shop vac under the AC, and I curl up the hose. I've got a long enough hose to go all the way out into the garage, the other garage, which is handy because there are times when you need to do cleanups out there. Below this table is a little bit messy. That's just a whole bunch of jigs. Above the table, we've got a Flatmaster sander, and on top of it, I have the leaf from an old oak table. This is what I use for assembling my pins. I have a few little projects up here, things I need to work on. I just got this the other day. I need to clean it up, lube it, get it ready to go. I'm gonna take this wrench, shorten it. It's gonna be used on my metal lathe. So just a couple of projects that I'm working on, small things, nothing really major. We come around this way. I've got a light above that table, which makes it nice. It's a magnifying light in case I need to work on something small, or if you get a splinter in your finger. Got a Wilton vise right here. I use this all the time for gripping things. I might need to cut a little bit of length off of a nut or a bolt. It is a very handy tool to have in the shop. It is setting on the edge of my lathe table. You can see I've got my little jet lathe right here. This is where I do my pin turning, dust collection. Back over here, I've got my Wolverine set up so I can sharpen my tools when need be. Right above the lathe, you'll see I have this hanger here. This is what my cell phone clips into and hangs right above the lathe so I can give you those overhead shots. It just goes up and attaches to the bottom of my loft. I've got a cabinet over here. Now this cabinet is primarily turning supplies. I've got denatured alcohol in there, activator, CA, got paper towels, sandpaper, anything and everything that I might need at the lathe is within arm's reach of the lathe to make it nice and convenient. I've also got some sandpaper down here. Now what you've got here, my dust collector is up on top of the loft. I didn't want to have to go up there to empty it. So basically I ran this pipe straight down and put the dust collection bin on the floor. All I got to do is pop the 3 little clips and I can roll the bin out and empty it, no problem. Along this wall, you'll see I have a number of these little drawer units. They are super handy for holding screws, nuts, bolts, all types of loose objects that I just need to organize. I've also got some organization over here in some little boxes that have dividers in them. On the back wall, something very important, stereo speakers. Yeah, we've got to have a stereo in the shop so that we can hear some music. I got my ear protection, face protection. I also put my clamps up underneath of the loft. It's a great place to store them. They're out of the way and easily accessible. This is what I call my drill bit and bushing drawer. Let me pull this out. All of my bushings and all of my drill bits are in here. They're all labeled, so I know what they are, sizes and everything, ready to go. The rest of my Wolverine, some of the jigs up there. I've got taps and dies, my drill bits that I use for bespoke pin turning. There are some of the jaws for my chucks across the top. Those are the collets for my collet chuck. They go from 1/16 of an inch to I believe 13/16 of an inch in 1/16 increments. Super handy. I use those quite a bit, especially when I'm doing bespoke pin turning. Back over here, we've got our other speaker. This is the other door. I've got a fire extinguisher there, so if I have an issue, I'm heading out the door, I can grab the fire extinguisher. I got a second toolbox that I added to my shop recently. This has come in really handy. Now the top of this is dedicated to bespoke pin turning. This drawer has pretty much everything I need to turn my bespoke pins. And I like it because it's right behind my lathe. I can simply turn around, grab what I need, and I'm ready to go. The lower section is what I store blanks in that I have for sale on my Etsy store. I also have a project that's in progress. This is a door topper for my wife. And then I've got plenty of storage space in the next 2 shelves because they are completely empty. Backing up a little bit, I've got my drill press here. It is kind of in the way of the door. I can actually push it very easily to the right to get out the door. But if I push it to the right, then the handle doesn't want to turn because it bumps into my toolbox. So I go ahead and slide it out of the way a little bit. I use that quite a bit. I pretty well keep my pin vise on there all the time. There's the second door out of the shop. Over in the corner, I've got extension cords. I've got more clamps. Let me back up a little bit. You'll see some templates up here for Adirondack chairs and for swings. I've got a turntable still in the shop, contemplating removing that because I have not been really utilizing it. We've got our scroll saw here now. This is my DeWalt. I use this for all of my intarsia work, so fantastic saw. I've got a couple of lathes here, metal lathes. This is a Atlas metal lathe, and behind it is another Atlas metal lathe. That's a small one. I've been working on this. The motor went out on it. I got a new motor. I hooked it up, got the lathe running, and within a few minutes of putting a load on the motor, it actually burned up on me. Down here, I've got some white oak from a cabinet shop. I am actually working on a stereo cabinet, and I'm collecting oak for that. Let me take you back to this corner. This is what I call kind of my contemplation corner. I've got my stool back here, and I'll sit back here when I'm working on projects and just kind of think about the projects, or I'll use the opportunity to sit down and post things out on the phone. If I take a photo, I just roll my compressor back in the corner. All of my metal detecting gear is right there. I've got levels and rulers and stuff in that corner. Coming around here, I've got a bench in my shop with some cabinets and drawers. I do a lot of work on this bench, not really assembly or anything like that, mostly lay stuff out and prep it. These are the shelves that go with the Christmas tree shelf. I'm working on those. I've got a dedicated laptop in the shop. That comes in incredibly handy. The only issue is I have to transfer files with a thumb drive. I need to work on getting some type of storage that's available all the time between my laptop and my actual personal computer so that I can transfer files back and forth without having to worry about, is the latest one available, on this thumb drive. We have our planer right here, and below it, it is covered in clamps. Those clamps get used for most of my glue ups on my pin blanks that I make. They are incredibly handy to have. Above the planer, I've got batteries for my drills, and there are my drills hanging upside down, ready to go. Moving this way, this is more of a mechanics toolbox. It's pretty much sockets and screwdrivers and all of that type of toolage that I use in the shop. And we are back to the door. I wanted to point up toward the top of the shop and show you the loft. Now over here on the left and over to about this point is all wood storage. There's a shelf along the back where I have a bunch of books and odds and ends. This is a swing that I refinished. I need to get it out this summer and hang it up in the yard. You'll see all of my shop stickers along the beam for the loft. That comes in very handy right here under the loft. You'll see this is the door. You pull that down, the stairs drop out. And then right beside it, I built a little box here, and it is hinged. And you take these two latches loose, it'll drop down, and that's where I keep finishing varnishes, stains, things like that. Very quick shop tour. I hope you enjoyed it. Just want to run you guys through and let you see what the shop looks like now. Pretty much I've got it focused in this area back here where my goal was to keep everything that I use on the lathe as close to the lathe as possible. We got the drill press right behind the lathe. We got our toolbox full of all of our lathe tools. We got all of our bushings and all of our drill bits right here. Everything we need for the lathe is there. One thing I didn't really show you, and you've seen it before, is I've got to the, let me turn around. I didn't talk much about my maker cart. It's pretty much junked up right now. I need to dig through it and clean it up a little bit. That is coming soon. I just did not have time to do it today. I ended up running out of time. But that's where I keep pending projects. There, you can see there are a lot of pending projects and not a lot of activity happening right now from that maker cart. Most of the activity is happening from these drawers and this table. I hope you enjoyed that very short tour of my shop. I'm kind of proud of it right now because it's super clean. I don't look for it to be super clean very long. So I wanted to take the opportunity just to kind of show everyone around and let you see how I've gone back and sort of laid things out and what works well for me. This may not work for you, but maybe you'll see something that you can try in your shop, and maybe it works, maybe it won't, but potentially it could help you improve your layout and really get your shop dialed in to what you need. I'd like to thank you for joining me for this tour. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me again real soon, and have a great evening.